Welcome to Take Up Your Space, the podcast where healing meets identity and where your story of trauma doesn't get the final word. I'm Tammy Bruni, and my passion is to help you find freedom on every level: psychological, spiritual, physiological, emotionally. Too many of us shrink back under the weight of stress, pain, and past experiences. But you were created to take up space, to walk boldly in your kingdom identity, and live fully in the purpose God designed for you. Each week we'll explore practical tools, biblical truths, and the science of healing so you can step out of survival and into wholeness. This is a safe space for your nervous system, your spirit, and your story to be seen and restored. If this resonates with you, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share this podcast with a friend who needs encouragement, and visit lionsarise.org for resources, my trauma healing manual, online programs, and more ways to connect. Together, let's take up space. We were always meant to do this. Welcome to Take Up Your Space. This is the first episode in a 6-episode series on the nervous system. And this is a topic that I've found isn't well understood with individuals who are either trauma survivors or daily just trying to navigate trauma responses, their relationships, how they're responding to others, because of the narrative that their nervous system is running according to, right? That story that it holds. So today we're going to talk about something that I'm sure we've all experienced. Have you ever found yourself saying yes when you wanted to say no? Or maybe you promised yourself, I'm not going to react like that again. I'm not going to go back to that habit. I'm not going to people please anymore. And then you did it anyway. Afterwards, you feel frustrated, maybe even ashamed, and you wondered, why do I keep doing what I don't want to do? If that sounds familiar, you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone, right? We even see this in the Word, where Apostle Paul says in Romans 7 verse 15, I do not understand what I do, for what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. So today we're going to look at this through the lens of the spiritual battle, as well as the nervous system response. So, because sometimes what feels like a moral failure, right, is actually a nervous system survival pattern. And so when we can understand this, then healing becomes possible and easier as well. So Paul is describing this inner conflict, right? So let's look at the spirit versus the nervous system. Your spirit wants one thing, but your body and reactions move in another direction. So you've got like this tug of war, this push and pull. So here's the key idea. Your spirit chooses, but your nervous system reacts. So your nervous system's primary goal is not holiness. It's not keeping you on the straight and narrow. It's not growth. It's not even happiness. Its job is simple: to keep you safe. And here's the challenge. Your nervous system doesn't ask, is this healthy? It asks, is this familiar? So if something feels familiar, your nervous system often reads it as safe, even if it's unhealthy. So this is why you stay in conversations too long, you overcommit, you avoid conflict, you go back to comfort habits, and you react in ways that you later regret. Your spirit may be saying no, but your nervous system is saying, yes, this keeps us safe. So let's talk about a very common nervous system pattern called the fawn response. Now, most people know fight or flight, but there's also freeze and fawn. Fawn means people-pleasing, over-accommodating, avoiding conflict, saying yes to keep connection, right? Because there's always that fear that there's going to be a loss of connection in the relationship. So why does this happen? So we always go back to our early years, right? For many children, connection was survival. So if love was unpredictable, if there was tension, anger, withdrawal, or emotional instability, your nervous system learned, if I keep everyone happy, I stay safe. This pattern then becomes automatic, right? So as an adult, when someone asks for something, you feel the tension in your body, your nervous system activates, and before you think, you're saying yes. Later on, your spirit says, why did I do that? So your nervous system wasn't choosing truth, it was choosing survival above truth. So let's have a look at something which we call ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences and attachment. So ACEs include experiences like emotional neglect, criticism or unpredictability, conflict in the home, feeling unseen or unsafe, parent emotional unavailability, or parentification, where you've had to take care of others. So when children experience these, they develop certain attachment strategies. So for example, anxious attachment says, I must keep people close. Avoidant attachment says, I must not need anyone. Fawn patterns say, I must please to stay connected. These strategies were brilliant as a child. They helped you survive your environment, but here's the problem. Your nervous system doesn't know you're not that child anymore. So today, when someone is disappointed, when there's tension, when someone asks something of you, your body reacts like connection is at risk. And your nervous system says, say yes, fix it, keep the peace, stay safe, even when your spirit is saying this is not healthy, right? So let me give you an example. Imagine Sarah. Sarah is a working mother and her boss asks her to take on an extra project. Inside, she feels the tight chest, she feels pressure, she feels overwhelmed, and a quiet voice that just says, I don't have the capacity. How many times have we done that, right? But immediately she hears herself say, sure, I can do that. Later on, she feels resentful and exhausted, right? Haven't we all been in that place? Why did she say yes? Because growing up, her home was tense, her mother was easily overwhelmed. She learned to be the good one, to not add any stress, and to keep everyone happy. So now when authority asks something of her, right, so it can be any authority figure that might trigger your childhood responses, right, her nervous system activates an old survival script. Don't disappoint, stay safe, say yes, right? So her spirit knows the truth, but her nervous system is protecting her from an old danger that no longer exists. So this doesn't just show up in people pleasing, right? It shows up in habits like overworking, emotional eating, scrolling, avoidance, substance use, over-explaining, staying in unhealthy relationships. So whatever that might look like for you, those habits that you keep repeating. So often these behaviors are not about lack of discipline. They are regulation strategies, right? The nervous system is trying to regulate. So for example, food soothes anxiety. Busyness prevents us from feeling. Scrolling distracts us from discomfort. Overworking creates a sense of worth. And pleasing reduces relational threat. Right? So your nervous system is trying to calm itself. So Paul's words make complete sense in Romans 7:18. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. So the spirit's willing, but the nervous system is dysregulated. So let's just look at the spiritual side of things, right? First of all, there's grace. Paul doesn't end with condemnation. He ends with hope. Romans 7 verse 24 to 25 says, "Who will rescue me from this body of death? Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord." Jesus didn't come to just forgive sin. He came to restore us, the whole person of who we are, spirit, soul, and body. Your nervous system healing is part of sanctification. Secondly, the word speaks directly to nervous system renewal. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Renewal isn't just a cognitive thing, it's experiential, right? We are wounded in our experiences, right, with others, which means that we heal in our experiences in healthy relationships, right? So your body has to learn safety. And so we often can do this in safe relationships. Thirdly, perfect love calms the fear response. 1 John 4 verse 18 says, "Perfect love casts out fear, because with fear comes torment." Right? So as you start to experience God's safety, not just believe it, right, but actually experience it by taking that time to be present with Him and spend the time in His presence, your nervous system begins to relax. So over time, you'll start to pause before you say yes. Your body is going to tolerate discomfort. You can disappoint others without that panicky feeling. You can respond instead of reacting. That is, in essence, nervous system discipleship, right? You're looking after your nervous system. So if your nervous system says yes when your spirit says no, here are 3 simple practices that you can use. So the first one is the pause. So when asked for something, say, "Let me think about that and get back to you." Right? Sometimes this isn't always possible if it's in the heat of the moment and you need to make a decision, but wherever possible, give yourself permission to not give an answer straight away. This then will give your nervous system time to just settle down. And then there's the body awareness. Notice, is your chest tight? Is your heart racing? Is there an urgency to that thing? So the urgency that you feel means that you're activated, right? And this is not wisdom. You're acting out of activation. And then regulation before decision making. So slow down your breath, right? Longer exhales signal safety to your nervous system. So take a slow breath in for 4 or 5 counts, and then a long exhale out for 6, and then ask, what is the truth here? Right? We've got to weigh up what's happening in that moment. So if you've been frustrated with yourself for saying yes when you meant no, then just be gentle with yourself, because many of our patterns were formed when our nervous system was trying to keep us safe. You're not weak. You've been conditioned or patterned into that response. So Paul's struggle also reminds us that transformation is a process. Things don't happen overnight, right? Your spirit is aligned with truth. So as your nervous system learns safety, your yes and your no will begin to match your values. So this is where healing starts, where renewal comes in, and just that integration of the spirit and body, because it's when the spirit and body reconnect again and are in alignment is actually when there's true healing that takes place. And this is the freedom that we can enter into in Christ. So thanks for listening here today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it. And remember, your nervous system learned survival, but it can also learn peace. And I'll catch you in the next episode. This episode of Take Up Your Space is brought to you by the Take Up Your Space healing programs. If you're ready to go deeper, my self-help manual has been developed into a full course to guide you step by step through healing on a psychological, spiritual, and physiological level. And if you feel called to help others, I also offer a coaching pathway and facilitator training so you can bring this message of freedom into your community. You can learn more and find the right program for you at lionsarise.org. Remember, you were created to take up your space.